Hello, this is Eastern Europe Review, a joint production of BELSAT TV and TVP World, featuring news and analysis from Belarus, Russia and Ukraine. My name is BELSAT, and here are today's stories. The Russians are approaching Kharkiv. The Ukrainian population is being evacuated in a dramatic way.
It's scary, really scary. My grandchildren and children, my whole life is here. I don't want to leave, that's for sure.
Mass protests are taking place in Georgia, a country in the southern Caucasus. The so-called Russian law has been approved by the legislature, but the situation is far from resolved.
We're fighting for free Georgia. We gained independence, we are independent. But now there's no freedom, we're not free.
The Belarusian dictator engaged in dubious business deals with Serbian multimillionaires. Investigative journalists uncovered the truth about the case.
Lukashenko gives them the opportunity either not to contribute to the budget or to impose additional costs on Belarusians.
The Russian military is advancing on a new front in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. Over the past few days, more than 5,000 people have been evacuated from towns and villages near the Russian border. The evacuation of the small town of Vovchansk has been ongoing for almost a week now. Our correspondents have captured the tragedy of people and the bravery of Ukrainian evacuation services.
Cars with loudspeakers are driving through the streets of Vovchansk. Residents are being offered evacuation. For the fifth day in a row, evacuations have been ongoing from the city and surrounding villages. Vovchansk is located just a few kilometers from the Russian border, on the line of advance of Russian forces towards Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv. Volunteers, soldiers and police are prioritizing the evacuation of children, especially orphans. They often have to provide first aid to the wounded during shelling. Evacuation teams themselves have come under enemy fire several times. Despite the fighting nearing the outskirts of Vovchansk, many residents are reluctant to leave their homes until the last moment.
There are 5 people risking their lives to get you out.
However, when Russian air bombs began to fall on the city, the majority opted to evacuate.
A bomb fell right between our house and the neighboring one. There was a fire and a strong wind, and firefighters didn't respond to calls. And 4 houses on the edge burned down. There's nothing left there at all, just walls. Neighbors called, saying what else has been left there. It's very hard, very loud. They keep shooting and shooting.
Yet, the prospect of venturing into the unknown is daunting for many. Antonina has lived in Vovchansk all her life. Her children and grandchildren were born here.
It's scary, really scary. My grandchildren and children, my whole life is here. I don't want to leave, that's for sure.
Before the new Russian offensive attempt in the Kharkiv region, Vovchansk was home to approximately 3,500 people. As of May the 13th, only about 200 residents remain in the city.
Most people have already evacuated. Some have seen what has happened next to them and understand that the next house could be theirs.
Vovchansk has already been under occupation. The Russians seized it on the first day of the full-scale invasion. The Ukrainian army liberated the city on September the 13th, 2022. Residents vividly remember the 6 months under occupation and fear a repeat of the situation. Vladimir and Svetlana lived in one of the villages bordering Russia. They miraculously managed to escape when Russian soldiers arrived in the village. Now they are also being evacuated to Kharkiv.
Вони вас взяли в полон чи як це?
Ну да, получається так. Вони спустилися з Росії з гори.
І все ми втекли до того, що на сьогодні отойшли трошки, а ми вирвалися.
А як вам вдалося?
Ну, знав і заградітельна,
Просто вояка російський
що
узнав,
перематував
що
її.
я їм ноги перематували, не знаю, може пожаліли.
Over the past 4 days, about 6,000 people have been evacuated from the border areas of the region.
Наразі продовжуємо працювати у місті Вовчанську.
We continue to work in Vovchansk. There are still people here. Together with the national police, we're organizing the evacuation. About 200 people still need to leave. The enemy is shelling the entire city, effectively destroying our civilian infrastructure.
Many people have been taken to Kharkiv, especially those who have no relatives in other regions of Ukraine and those who need urgent medical assistance. While it's calmer there compared to Vovchansk, Kharkiv is also subjected to daily Russian shelling.
The Parliament of Georgia, a country situated in the southern Caucasus, has finally approved the bill on transparency of external influence, commonly referred to as the law of foreign agents or the so-called Russian law. Despite the protests of opposition deputies and thousands of activists, the decision has been made. Georgia's Western partners have also criticized the initiative, warning that the country may jeopardize its candidacy for European Union membership.
The capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, the meeting hall of the National Parliament, the final discussion of a controversial bill that infringes upon the rights of organizations receiving funding from abroad, has escalated into disputes between deputies. The ruling Georgian Dream Party, established by one of the wealthiest Georgians, Bidzina Ivanishvili, and endorsed by the majority of the parliament, claimed victory. While deputies clashed with each other, tens of thousands of demonstrators rallied nearby. Protesters damaged barriers around the building. The police began to disperse the demonstration without prior warning, resorting to forceful tactics and deploying tear gas. The street unrest continued into the night. Officially, 13 people have been detained.
We're fighting for free Georgia. We gained independence, we're independent. But now there's no freedom, we're not free.
From now on, the law requires all non-profit organizations that receive more than 20% of their income from abroad to register on a special list and provide detailed reports about their activities. Large fines are imposed for even the slightest violations in reporting. The Georgian opposition, consisting of dozens of disparate organizations and parties, fears significant political pressure from the authorities through this tool, which they describe as an exact copy of the Russian law on foreign agents.
This is a very important point now. It's either this country goes to the direction of Russia or this country goes to the direction of what overwhelming majority of Georgian citizens want. It's Europe, European integration.
The protesters believe that the law, which many call repressive, could stop the convergence process with Europe. In December 2023, Georgia was granted candidate status for EU membership.
I can state that this legislation, which is currently initiated by the Georgian Dream government, is a wall between Georgia and European Union, between Georgia and NATO.
The foreign ministers of Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia and Iceland arrived in the Georgian capital during the ongoing protests. Together with the country's president, Salome Zurabishvili, they criticized the adopted law and condemned police violence against protesters. Later, they joined the rally.
Ukrainians are dying every day for the right to be free Europeans. Belarusians who dare to dream and speak out for freedom have been silenced by terror of police and the KGB. I do not want this to be the future of Georgia.
The adopted law has widened the rift between the country's political leadership and civil society. It is no longer merely about the document itself. It has become an indicator of the significant rejection of the Georgian Dream Party's course by a large part of the Georgian population. Some political scientists believe that the law is intended to eliminate the institution of independent observers during the upcoming autumn elections, which the ruling party is approaching with rather shaky positions.
It will be impossible to win elections honestly, so they need to ensure various falsifications somehow. But it will be not possible to do that with a very strong civil sector, which Georgia now has. Therefore, it's necessary to somehow, let's say, neutralize the civil sector.
Meanwhile, the consequences of adopting the law on transparency of foreign influence may soon be felt by everyone in the country, after the United States suggested that they could impose sanctions on some Georgian officials. Stocks of two of Georgia's largest London-listed banks fell sharply. The exchange rate of the national currency, the Georgian lari, against the dollar is also decreasing. Above all, this will directly affect prices in stores.
They received funds from Alexander Lukashenko and used them to purchase luxury homes in Dubai and London. The Belarusian Investigative Center investigated the finances associated with a family of Serbian businessmen known as the Karic brothers, who were referred to as the dictator's wallets. Journalists reported that in 2020 the businessmen sold Belarusian companies in Cyprus and none of the proceeds went to the Belarusian government.
The family of Serbian businessmen, Bogaljub and Dragomir Karic, have made such a profit from cooperating with the Belarusian dictatorship that it has allowed them, among other things, to purchase 6 apartments in Dubai.
Members of their families bought these apartments in their own names, in one of the most luxurious locations in Dubai, on the artificial islands of Palm Jumeirah. These are not houses or villas, but rather apartments. They cost from $500,000 to over $1 million.
The Karic brothers, who are among the largest developers in Belarus, are considered friends and the so-called wallets of Alexander Lukashenko.
I'm also not a foreign president to you. No, I can say my president. Yes, I agree.
Their company, Dana Holdings, is engaged in the development of Minsk. Since 2020, it has been under European sanctions for supporting Lukashenko's regime. The Karic brothers have saved about $1 billion only in dividends, receiving land for development in several parts of the city of Minsk for free, and in addition, benefits that no Belarusian developer has seen. Journalists from the Belarusian Investigative Center have discovered that 4 years ago, the Karic brothers earned 700 million euros from the sale of Belarusian companies registered in Cyprus to the United Arab Emirates. Part of the money was spent on purchasing at least 6 apartments in Dubai.
The question arises whether they really deserve the profits from these privileges, which are based on the fact that Alexander Lukashenko gives them the opportunity either not to contribute to the budget or to impose additional costs on Belarusians.
Lukashenko proudly claims that Dana Holdings builds high-quality offices and housing.
The window just fell down. I don't know, it just flew off the hinges or something. I went in and saw that the door to the balcony was lying on its side. You can hear the rumble of cars and it's cool in the apartment.
During a meeting with the Karic brothers in 2015, Lukashenko emphasized that they were expected to fulfill their duties without any room for failure, although in reality they were granted leniency.
It's not surprising that the motto "cheaper for people" affects not only the quality inside the apartments, it's also about the organization of urban space, about reducing parking spaces, green areas, and so on.
According to journalists, Dana Holdings is the beneficiary of the new construction project in Minsk called North Shore, covering an area of 15 square kilometers.
They not only possess extraordinary credentials and luxurious land for development on their terms, but there is also an additional aspect to the special decree. Within a radius of about 10 to 15 kilometers, any construction of office buildings without direct agreement with the investor is prohibited.
In its latest investigation, the Belarusian Investigative Center also alleges that the offshore companies, to which one of Lukashenko's official state residences, Vostok, was registered, may have connections to Kharkiv's company, Dana Holdings.
These are all the stories we have prepared for today. Thank you for watching Eastern Europe Review. Please continue to stay tuned to TVP World.